Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. It's nice to be back again in the daily Manda classes, and we're going to begin our study of the Bhagavad Gita tonight. But before we start the Gita, I would like to introduce to you another work. It's called the Swami Purana. Now, in Vedic study, there are four classes or four divisions of Vedic knowledge. Samhita are the hymns of the Vedas. Brahmana are the texts of pujas and worship, padoti, the systems of worship. Oranya are the stories of the rishis and the kings and how the knowledge was applied. It's sort of like codified law, legislative law, and case law, the application of the law. And the fourth division is called Vedanta or Upanishad, meaning the philosophy. Well, the Swami Purana is a storybook, and it's a storybook which traces all the stories and all the history from the beginning of the Devi Gita to the end of the Bhagavad Gita. And in our study of the Bhagavad Gita, it would be very, very handy for collateral reading if you would read the Swami Purana, because it tells the story of how Kashyap Muni and Aditi, his wife, did tapasya for Vishnu to incarnate. And they said, we want you to come into our house as our son. And Vishnu said, I'm going to come 3 times. And so Vishnu and Lakshmi took birth as Swayambhuva Manu and Satyarupa, the first Adam and Eve of Hindu philosophy. And then they took birth as Dasharat and Kaushalya, the father and mother of Ram. And then they took birth as Vasudeva and Devika, as the parents of Krishna. And all the stories of the curses and how they ended up in jail to give birth to Krishna, how his 6 brothers were killed as soon as they were born and liberated from human existence, what Deva in his right mind would want to suffer through the lifetime of human existence. They said, please, let us go, let us be free from the curse of humanity as soon as we're born. Then we can go back to our heavenly abode. Now, all of these stories are in the Swami Purana, and it's sort of told on a very elementary level so that we can all understand it. I highly recommend it as collateral reading to the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, and also it'll come in handy in our study of the Devi Gita. There are so many fun stories. But now let's go on to the Bhagavad Gita as though we really know what's going on, because we're interested in a different battle. And not just all the curses that happened to Krishna and to Vasudeva and to Devika, but let's start with the introduction. Even to talk about the Bhagavad Gita stimulates consciousness. To contemplate it inspires the most noble understanding. To study every syllable of every line gives rise to an experience of personal transformation. Gita changes from an intellectual pursuit into an intuitive expression. Words fail to pay tribute to the stimulation attained through the Gita. That is why every sadhu in every generation should rewrite the Gita, retranslated into contemporary language and symbols, which are meaningful to the understanding of that culture in terms of time, place, and circumstances. Let as many interpreters as possible share their understanding of the message of Gita with as many as wish to understand. The more individuals who accept even a portion of these noble ideals into their lives, the more this creation will manifest peace and harmony. This interpretation of the Gita takes its key from the first word of the first verse, dharma. We translate dharma to be an ideal of perfection. Other translations say variously, on the field of Kuru, on the field of sacred duty, in the holy field of Kurukshetra, in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, on the sacred soil of Kurukshetra, and in other ways relate to a history of events that have taken place in the distant past, in a distant land, rather than to a present reality which all of us are experiencing today and every day. Dharma means the ideal of perfection. Kuru means karma, action. Kshetra means field. Striving to attain the ideal behavior in every action, the Dharma Kshetra, Kuru Kshetra, demands that we are each fighting our own battle. This battle is continuous, it is ongoing, it is ever present, it is the same for all of us. At any time, selfishness can raise its ugly head and tell us that it is not necessary to give the most or the best. The attachments of the ego can dramatically call out, "What's in it for me?" And therefore, it is necessary to study the Bhagavad Gita as it relates to our own personal struggle, not necessarily how Arjuna resolved his dilemma, more importantly, how am I going to solve mine? And hence, a new translation. This translation strives towards the ideal. It is our aspiration to define every word, every name of every character, every attribute of every participant in its highest idyllic sense. We may stretch the limits of the grammarian's patience. We may step on the toes of the historian's revelations. We may even fail to concur with sectarian theology and even the accepted dogmas of academic philosophy, but we are seeking the highest ideal in every word we are reading, and therefore a new translation. We are searching for inspiration in every verse of the Gita. Enough of the histories of yesterday. We are looking for what can be applied to today. The Mahabharata is extremely entertaining. It is without doubt epic poetry. It conveys the history of a people, the succession of a lineage, the struggles of a family, along with being a repository of literature, theology, philosophy, a true epic. The Bhagavad Gita is contained in one small part of the Mahabharata. It comprises a mere 700 verses of an epic tome, 100,000 verses long. Yet it has synthesized Vedic philosophy so succinctly that it has become the most widely translated book of Sanskrit literature. The allegory, as we share it, tells the story of a blind king whose name literally means custodian of the nation, or whose nation continues. And practically, he plays the part of blind ambition. His oldest son is named Defender of Evil, Duryodhana, who is selfishness incarnate. Defender of Evil is constantly plotting how to deprive his cousins, the sons of who is without prejudice, the Pandavas, of their share of the kingdom. Just look at the actual etymology of some of the names of the cast of characters mentioned in the first chapter. The commanders of the forces of darkness, Dhritarashtra, the custodian of the nation, or blind ambition. Duryodhana, the defender of evil. Drona, who injures his foes with weapons. Bhishma, who rules fear. Karna, who listens to others. Or from Kriya, who thinks himself to be the doer. Ashwatthama, who has the strength of a horse or the obstinacy of a horse. And the commanders of the forces of light. Pandu, the brother of Dhritarashtra, literally, who has no color, who is without prejudice, without any bias, without any bone to pick. He sees what is rather than only what he wishes it to be. Yudhishthira, who remains committed to Dharma, the ideal of perfection, who is steer in the Yud. Yudhishthira. Arjuna, the clarity of pure devotion. Drishtaketu, the continuity of light. Shahadev, equal to the gods. Virat, brilliantly shining. Shandya, the son of unselfishness. Kunti Bhoj, who enjoys taking away the deficiency of others. Even the name of Krishna must be understood in its most divine sense. Kakara karana deha, rakara shukshma deha syad, isha shabda adipati, na pratyaksha rup prakash. The letter Ka means the causal body. The letter Ra means the subtle body. The word Isha means the supreme Lord of all, or the supreme seer of all, the supreme consciousness of all, who perceives all. The syllable Na is the illumination of the perceivable form. Krinkara sarvash karmashyadam, Ishabda chaitanya prakashya, na padamyati rupaha. Krishnartha Srishti Param. The meaning of the letter Krim is the one who performs all action. The word Isra means the illumination of consciousness. The syllable Na means individual form. The meaning of the word Krishna is he who is beyond creation. Krishi Shabda Dharma Kshetra Chas. Na Padma Vyakti full Prakash, Krishna Shrishti Mali Kartavyat Sarva Karma Phala Pradam. The meaning of the word Krishi is the cultivator of the field of the ideals of perfection. The meaning of the syllable Na is the flowering of each and every flower. Krishna is responsible as the gardener of creation and grants the fruits of all actions. Kapadartha Vikaram, Rishi Shabda Gyan Pritak Prakashya, Nambulartha Parambara, Vyakti Krishna Nitya Samashti Rupa. The meaning of the syllable Ka is the first cause. The meaning of the word Rishi, who illuminates wisdom again. The root meaning of Na is the individual most supreme. Krishna is the eternal form of the universe. As you can see, the understanding of the names of the cast of characters is of paramount importance. Just who is conducting this dialogue with whom? Who are the opponents in the battle? And what is this kingdom they are seeking to win? Especially throughout the discussion, Krishna calls Arjuna by many names which describe his qualities, his attainments, and depict the epitome of respect with which a guru instructs his disciple. In return, Arjuna addresses his guru Krishna with various epithets which convey the sense of privilege from a disciple receiving valuable instruction from the guru he conceives to be the incarnation of the respected supreme divinity of all creation. These names and qualities are extremely valuable to an understanding of the relationship between guru and disciple, and also add a significant dimension to the understanding of the text. For that reason, they have all been translated and included in the present text, along with an identification as to whether they apply to Krishna or Arjuna, so that the reader can be free from any confusion. The respected supreme divinity as the name of Krishna, and clarity of pure devotion as the name of Arjuna have been left without identification because their repetitious use and a complete glossary of names has been added as an appendix. So those are the default names. The clarity of pure devotion is asking the respected supreme divinity, and that's how he regards his guru. and regarding the guru as the respected supreme divinity, he's freed immediately. Immediately he has achieved freedom. The ideal of perfection is constantly evolving. It's changing its form according to the variety of circumstances which cause the interaction of all that lives. Bhagavad Gita sings a song of inspiration and conveys the greatest blessings of purity and clarity in understanding that ideal. What is devotion? What is wisdom? How do the paths intertwine? Understanding Krishna to be the supreme Lord of all action, and Arjuna, the clarity of pure devotion, struggling to manifest the ideal behavior in every action, let us tune into the dialogue which will inspire all life to become one with the soul of existence. That was 1997. 10 years ago. I'd like to share with you the preface to the third edition, which was in 2003. It is the year 2003. Nations are pointing weapons of mass destruction at each other. Terrorists are threatening the very fabric of social normality. Zealots of every hue are proclaiming only themselves competent to guide the evolution of civilization. Rogue nations headed by egotistical dictators are challenging the security of freedom-loving peoples, and democracy is being relegated to an experiment in history. The timeless battle of the Mahabharata is ever so pertinent to the circumstances of today. It is even more incumbent upon devotees to recite the Bhagavad Gita and to demonstrate the ideals of perfection, our Dharma, as our impending battles approach. We must define the peace we are striving to maintain. What are its constituent elements? How much are we willing to oppress the rights of others so that we are able to maintain our own rights? Is it possible that my dedication to my goals of perfection will preclude others from reaching their own? This is not merely a political discussion. I'm talking about spirituality. As a clergyman with a presence on 5 continents, I'm speaking of inner strife which is common to all people, a universal principle which is keeping us from realizing our highest potential. The enemy is within. He is inside. He is pointing his weapons at all that we hold dear. Universal peace, love for all, the evolution of mankind. Nothing is sacred. He will demolish them all only to serve his interest. This ego I, the one who says, I know, I am different, I am special. This ego I is the culprit. And now the Bhagavad Gita comes along and says, I have been calling out to you since Vedic times. I have been trying to explain to you since thousands of years. Don't allow the ego to rule. You must subdue the ego. Only then can we ever hope for peace. Please, my friends, devotees, well-wishers, conquer the ego. Let us make that our battle. Direct all our attention towards the subjugation of duality, and let us realize that the one God dwells in the hearts of us all. And that was in 2003. And now, if we have any questions about the introduction or the preface or any of that other bhumika. Yes, please.
Can you speak, if this is the time, a little bit about the relationship between Bhagavad Gita and chanting?
Yes, I can. I can speak at length on that subject. I think it's a wonderful topic. Bhagavad Gita, as we're going just about to listen to, is an exposition, an excellent exposition of the goal. He says, surrender your every action to God. Surrender the fruits of your every action to God. Remember that God is doing through you. You are not the doer, you are the tool in God's hand. And that is a very, very lofty sentiment, and it's a very high ideal of perfection, but a very difficult process to attain. Chandi is the path to the goal of Gita. Chandi says, if you're seriously intent upon subjugating the ego, sit in one asana. Keep your backbone straight. Breathe like this. Don't move your knees. Recite these mantras. Chant in this way. Chant the entire text in one asana. And cut down with the sword of wisdom all the excesses born of egotism. Let the goddess come into your life and take away your too much and too little and put them in balance. Take down self-conceit and self-deprecation and silence the judges of the movies that we're watching in our meditations. And thereafter, surrender the great ego and all his armies at the feet of the goddess. Thereafter, Krishna can become the doer of all. And we become the clarity of pure devotion, which allows God to act through us. I believe that Chandi is the path, and Gita is the destination. Gita doesn't say, how do you surrender everything to God? He says surrender. Out of surrender comes peace. Cultivate wisdom. Through wisdom you have the fullest devotion. Through devotion you pay attention. Through paying attention you become one with me. But he doesn't tell us how to do that. Chandi tells us how. She gives us a path and a step-by-step explanation of what to do first, what to do next. Gita, as we're about to read, is going to say, listen to one verse, half a verse, one word, one syllable, one letter. Who recites even a portion of this, a third portion, a sixth portion, one chapter? You're going to go to the highest heavens. Chandi says, sit down and read this book from cover to cover and don't move your knees until you're done. She's got a method. And that's what I cognize as the distinction between Chandi and Gita. Are there other questions? Yes, please.
You made a statement that when Arjuna was able to recognize Lord Krishna as the Supreme Lord, that he was free.
Yes.
Please help with that.
If you are in the presence of God, what bondage do you have towards the physical world? Only when you doubt are you bound. When you know that God is present imminently, and I have the privilege to be in her presence, then immediately we're free. That is liberation. That is moksha. If I can realize that my guru is the guru of all the gods, is the guru of all, that she came down from the heavens to bless us with the true knowledge, she took away all the darkness and illuminated our light, and I have the privilege to be in that presence, that is liberation immediately. There is no question. All I have to do is know the address of the Devi Mandir, where to go. Even that is a source of tremendous solace to me. It is my ticket to freedom. Just knowing the address of my guru is sufficient to give me the inspiration, the confidence, the competence with which to face all of the obstacles of the world. Because I know where to go when I get in trouble. And I will get in trouble. I can't hope that I'm not going to. Well, I hope, but I can't really imagine that I'm not going to. So therefore, every time I fall down, I know where to go to get help to pick myself back up again and start off again. And that is liberation. Because I get to go without fear. Because every time I fall down, I know she's going to be there to pick me up. She'll grab my hand and say, hey, you silly little Swami, get up. Arise, Uttishta Bhagavata. Don't be a lazy boy. Get up. So that is the ticket to freedom. Just being in the presence of God, that's a lot. That's a lot. And if I conceive that my Guru is divine, I am privileged. I am blessed among humanity. Are there other questions? Do we have any friends outside that are able to communicate with us? Or? Yes, please.
When you were talking about the Chandi and the Gita, it's almost like the Chandi was effort, but the Gita is grace.
Well, that's not fair because grace in Sanskrit is the word kripa, and kri means do, and pa means get. And the grace is you're going to get what you do. You will get the fruit of your karma. You will enjoy your karma whether you like it or not. And that's the grace. So, let us say that Chandi is sadhana and Gita is realization. You have to realize that you're the lover. You can't do sadhana to realize that you're a lover. You realize you're a lover. You do sadhana to make yourself worthy of realizing that you're the lover. Instead of sitting back on the sofa, like a wallflower saying, poor me, nobody has asked me to dance. I'm waiting to be the beloved. Instead, we'll just get up on the dance floor and boogie and say, I am the lover. Any beloveds out there? And that's the difference. It's a realization. So Gita makes us the lover. And Chandi prepares us and teaches us how to love. Gita says, be a lover. I heard that before, and still I'm waiting. Chandi says, if you want to be a lover, this is what you've got to do. So that's the distinction. Let's begin with the Gita Mahatmyam, the greatness of the Gita. Om Bhu Swaha, Om Bhuva Swaha, Om Swaha Swaha, Om Bhurbhuva Swaha, Sri Paramatmane Namah. Atha Gita Mahatmyam Prarabdhaha Narovacha Swaha. Bhagavan Padamesana Bhakti Vyakta Vicharini Prarabhyam Bhujam Manasya Tatam Bhakti Prabhu Swaha Sri Vishnu Ruvacha Swaha. Prarabdham Bhujam Manaki Gita Vyasakata Sudasa Mukta Sarsuki Duke Kanano Palikte Swaha. Mahapapadi Papani Gita Janam Kuroti Chek Pachit Pachana Kurvani Nandini Krutana Bambukat Swaha. Gitaya Pastikam Yatra Yatra Pada Prapartate Tatra Sarvani Tirtani Prayagani Tetragay Swaha. Sarve Devacharishyo Yogina Panakrashye Gopala Gopika Bhavina Radha Sutta Vicharja Bhaktam Bhaktam Sudam Tatra Gandhishti Pampriti Divasami Sadevaki Sva Gita Sahyam Tishtami Gita Mechotam Mantriyam Gita Tenam Upashada Pinuyam Padanyayam Sva Gita Meparam Vidya Brahmarupana Sanchira Bhartatakshira Vidya Swami Vacha Padamika Sva Chilganantena Krishna Bhakta Samukha Torjanam Vedakani Parananda Pradartha Jnana Sankita Sva Yortakasya Chapedita Naro Nishcha Lakmasra Jnana Siddhita Zavade Tato Yati Parandaram Sva Bhakti Samartha Samvade Tato Nampata Matare Tada Mudana Tampanyana Vedanta Samchaka Sva Tripakam Bhakta Manastus Gankasana Palamade Saracham Japa Manastus Samayaka Palamade Sva Ekadaryam Yodikam Bhakti Bhakti Samyukam Rukalokam Bhakti Kanro Bhutvakat Keshiram Sva Avyayam Sokapadava Nityam Yapatatrina Rasa Yakin Naratanyaman Manmataram Sindre Sva Jigaya Sokatrashkam Sapta Pancha Chatushtayam Dovinikam Tatranabha Sokanam Yapatina Sva Chandra Lakma Bhakti Varshantam Mayatam Divam Gita Bhakta Samayato Brito Manushatam Vadesva Gita Dasam Pudakapa Labde Mukti Bhuttamam Gita Gita Vasangitam Vidya Matnogatim Vadesva Gita Srasha Shabna Sato Mahapapa Yuto Viva Vaikunta Sama Prapani Vishna Sarvodate Sva Gitartam Gagate Vidam Pritakam Manipu Vishratinam Muttasiniyo Vyanti Paramataram Sva Gitamasritya Pavlo Guru Janakadika Virtutakamascharake Gita Yakta Paramatam Sva Gitaya Pratatnam Pita Mahatmyam Jnapate Pita Bhakto Bhakti Kasana Eva Putavita Sva Hitam Bhaktam Sanvitam Hitam Rotya Sardat Paranam Bhakti Durvakti Mukta Sva Sudvacha Sva Mahatmyam Gitaya Naya Putta Sanatram Gitam Tichapate Sudya Yukta Sva Iti Divitya Mahatmyam. Let's go back and read the first part of the Mahatmya. There are two parts, and there are several Mahatmyas. These are the shorter versions. There is a longer version that's 190 verses long. That's in another book. So let's read this one. We bow to the supreme soul of the universe, and now the greatness of the Gita. Just like Chandi Mahatmyam, Devi Mahatmyam, the greatness of the goddess, Gita Mahatmyam, the greatness of the Gita. Now remember, Gita means a song, and this is the song of Bhagavan. The Bhagavad from Bhagavan, the song from God, is the literal translation, and this is the greatness of that song. And Dara said, and Dara is asking Vishnu, "Hey, Supreme Lord, O God, highest ruler of those who move with devotion, hey, most respected one, give us the teaching which grants understanding for future actions." Hey, we're going to act in the future. There's going to be some karma outstanding. So we might as well understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. What's our goal in performing these future actions? What should we be looking for? And the respected Vishnu said, "For the understanding of future actions, always practice the Gita." Now, if you want to know what your karma is about, and where it's going, and where you're trying to go, and why you're trying to get there, study the Gita, practice the Gita. He or she who practices becomes liberated, content in the world, released from the bonds of all actions, because they become a tool in the hands of God. For he or she who will meditate on the Gita with full consciousness, neither great sins will touch him, nor other confusions blossom to fruition. How can you have confusion when you're living in the presence of God? What confusion will there be? Whoever, wherever is located the Gita book, if you have enough sense to keep the book in your house, wherever this recitation is performed, if you know enough to chant it, there all the holy places of pilgrimage are situated. There is Prayag and other holy sites. You don't have to go out on pilgrimage around the world. All the gods, the rishis, the yogis, the heavenly beings, the cowherds and herdesses, the gopas and gopis, and Narad and others quickly manifest their help where the Gita is recited. All the gods come. Where the Gita is contemplated, read, recited, or heard, there in that place I always reside without a doubt. Nasamshaya. Wherever you contemplate it, that's what we're doing right now. We're reading it, and reciting it, and hearing it. Krishna Bhagavan Ki Jai. There, he always resides. I am situated in the Gita as my refuge, and the Gita is my excellent home. Taking refuge in the wisdom of the Gita, I protect the three worlds. Gita is my highest knowledge. The form of God without a doubt. If you are a servant of God, you're an extension of God, you're a tool in the hands of God, you're a part of God. The form of God without a doubt. The regular contemplation of even a half a verse or a letter is the contemplation of my unspeakable soul or essence. If you've got that Bhakti, you can listen to one letter of the Gita. Just like we told the story of the farmer listening to the pundit. And the pundit was going on and on and on. And the farmer was crying and crying and crying. And after the discourse was complete, the farmer said to the pundit said to the farmer, "Why were you crying? You don't understand Sanskrit." And the farmer replied, "I didn't understand a word that you said, but while you were talking, I saw Krishna standing there blessing us all." So even the contemplation of one letter is the contemplation of my unspeakable soul or essence. Within is the bliss of consciousness with which Krishna discoursed face to face with Arjuna, the wisdom of the meaning of the principles, the highest bliss of the three Vedas. And here we're speaking Veda-trayi because Samaveda is completely contained within Rig Veda. But the verses of Samaveda are all within Rig Veda, but when they're written in Sama notation, with the songs notation, the highs and the lows, the Hasya, Dirgo, and Bluto sounds are indicated above the letters, then it is called Samaveda. So here we're talking about Veda-trayi, the three Vedas, and the meaning of the principles. We talk about Tattva-gyan, the wisdom of the principles, the meaning of the principles, the knowledge of the principles. The principles are that thou art. Tattva, you are that. Those men who always recite these 18 chapters without a wandering mind earn the attainment of perfect wisdom and thence go to the highest position. If one is incapable of making the complete recitation, then one should recite a half. Thus one earns the merits of the gift of cows. Of this there is no doubt. And Godhan was a special practice. It meant not only did you give a cow, but remember the root of so many important words is go. rays of light. So the giving of a cow is also synonymous with the giving of light. So Gauri is not she who is she who radiates cows. Govinda is not he who is one pointed cow. Even though Gopal could be the protector of cows, he is the protector of the light. And the light means the light of wisdom, the light of the Vedas, the light of pure knowledge and true devotion. So if one reads and contemplates a 1/3 portion, one receives the fruit of a bath in the Ganges. Contemplation of a 1/6 portion bears the fruit of a sacrifice with soul. Whoever will regularly read one chapter with devotion will attain to the Rudra Loka, the realms of Rudra, and will become a member of Rudra's entourage for all time. And remember, that's the form of Shiva who takes away all the tears, the reliever of sorrows and sufferings. Rudra, Asru Trihate, who takes away the tears. Whoever will regularly read the words, verses, or chapters will become one with humanity so long as the earth may exist. Those men who will read the verses of the Gita, 10 verses, 7 verses, 5 verses, 4, 2, 3, or 1, or even a half a verse, will attain to the realm of the moon for 10 million years of Dhruva, who Dhruva is eternally young, the eternally young sage. Human beings united in the recitation of Gita avert death. How can you die if you live the Gita? Where is death? How can it even touch you? What would die? The Atma won't die. But does the body die? How can it? Energy does not die. It's never destroyed. It only changes forms. So what's going to die? When you read the Gita and you study the Gita, you live the Gita, you avert death. You know that you're in constant transformation and constant evolution. And the soul is always constant and perceiving the changes of nature. And nature is always changing because that's its nature. And you avert death. Just a tool in the hands of God. Again, those who practice the Gita attain the most excellent liberation. Those who are united in the pronunciation of the Gita attain the dissolution of the substance of all thought. If you're united and at one and at peace and understanding and recitation and asana, pranayam, you're all in union in yoga while you're chanting the Gita, then all thought has ceased. It has ceased. Who can listen to the meaning of the Gita is protected from great sins. We are protecting you. We're surrounding you with an aura of protection. We surround you with light. He attains to the abode of Vishnu, Vaikuntha, and Vishnu is pleased with him. Who regularly meditates on the meaning of the Gita and performs his actions in accordance with its teachings is known as liberated while living, Jivan Mukta. And at the end of his earthly body attains the highest position, Param Padam. Liberated while living, just like Chanak and Nara and other great rishis who had attained that sense of surrender to God. Samarpana. They offer themselves in equilibrium. That type of surrender, where they offer themselves in equilibrium, they are liberated while living. Who takes refuge in the Gita becomes a progenitor of abundance in the universe. He will expel all impurities from the world and advance to the highest position of Gita. Who reads the Gita, but without reading this glory of the Gita, the recitation has an obstruction, and it becomes a labor in vain with a concealment of heart or satisfaction. So here, this Gita Mahatmyam, the greatness of the Gita, should be read before and after the recitation of the Gita, so that there will be no obstruction. In the same way that we pronounce the Shapadwara mantras and the Ukilan mantras, and put on the kaboch and open the kila, and in the various ways we prepare ourselves to read the Chandipat, in the same way we read the Gita Mahatmya in order to prepare ourselves to understand what is the greatness of this study. Whoever will perform the practice of the Gita with this glory of the Gita will attain to that fruit which is most difficult to be attained. And Sutta said, I have disclosed this glory of the Gita. It should be read again at the end of the Gita, and the appropriate fruits will be attained. Om Krim Krishnaya Namaha. Do you have any questions about this first Gita Mahatmya, the greatness, the first proclamation of greatness? Well, then let's go on and read the Dvitiya Mahatmyam on page 19. We'll just continue with the second part of the glory of the Gita. Om Bhu Shva, Om Bhu Swa, Om Swa Swa, Om Bhu Swa Swa. Gita Shastra Vitam Panyam, Yapati Prayata Pavam, Vishnu Padma Praputi, Voyashokati Pachita Swa. Gita Danyana Sivasya, Pranayama Prasya Ne Pasanti, Papani, Purvajanma Kritani Chasva. Maratnim Pochanyam Patam Javasananti Vedine Sakriti Tavasi Snanam Sansara Malanasanam Sva. Gita Sukitra Karya Himane Shastra Prisray Jasvaya Prabham Radhasyam Mukha Padme Vichisitasva. Bharatam Rita Sarvasvam Vishnu Vakrani Visita Gita Gandhore Kamiva Purajanmana Divitya Sarvavrani Sato Rabo Toga Gopala Nandira Karto Vatsasa Kirguga Gunagita Metama Katsva Ekam Sastra Deviki Putra Gitamico Devo Devaki Putra Deva Eko Mantra Sasyanamani Hani Kamakyanam Tasya Devasya Svevana Svaha. And now, the second part of the glory of the Gita, Om Bhu Svaha, Om Bhuva Svaha, Om Svaha Svaha, Om Bhur Svaha Svaha. This Gita scripture has such merit that whoever tries to read it completely, will be freed from fear and grief, etc., and will attain to Vishnu's highest position. Even if you have enough devotion to try to read it, all your fear dissolves immediately. Whoever will recite the chapters of the Gita with the method of breath control known as pranayama will be freed from all sins, even those committed during previous lives. So we're going to breathe in one mantra and we're going to exhale the mantras of the text. And you breathe in your Mool mantra or your Guru mantra, your Diksha mantra, or any mantra that is appropriate, and you exhale the pronunciation of the text. And if you pronounce the chapters of the Gita with the breath control of pranayam, you will be freed from all sins, past, present, and future. Every day one takes a bath with water to remove the dirt from the body. Whoever takes a bath by reciting the Gita cleanses the dirt from all existence. This excellent Gita, what other scripture can be compared with it? From the lotus of his own navel, the Creator came forth. Remember, Vishnu's navel gave birth to Brahma. From the lotus came out of the navel, and Brahma sat in the lotus. From the lotus of his mouth, Gita was created. So his navel, the lotus of his navel gave birth to Brahma, who creates. The lotus of his mouth, Padma Mukh, from the lotus of his mouth came forth the Gita. All the nectar of immortal wisdom and light was created from Vishnu's mouth. Who will drink from the Ganges of Gita will not know another birth. We become free from death. We won't know of another birth. We know we're in constant transformation and we're witnessing that transformation. This is a tool in the hands of God, and I get to watch what God wants to do with it. What a privilege. That's freedom from death. Will not know another birth. The blissful protector of cows, that's Gopal, has given the cream from the cow of all the Upanishads. Arjuna is he who enjoys that milk, which is the greatness of the nectar of the Gita. So here, all the Upanishads are a cow. And Gopal, the protector of the cows, has taken the cream from the cow of all the Upanishads. And he gave it to Arjuna. And he gets to drink that nectar, the greatness of the nectar of the Gita. There is but one scripture from the son of Devaki, and that is the Gita. There is one God, the son of Devaki. He is one. His mantras are many. Many are his various names. Perform the service of the one God. Yani kamapyekam tasya devasya seva. Please do seva. Do your selfless service as a privilege to demonstrate the love, the sincerity, the intensity of the bhava, of love and feeling that you have from God. And that is the service of the one God. And he has many names. And he has many forms. And now we're going to call him Krishna. Well, do we have any other questions about the Gita Mahatmya? Or do we have any questions about the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita?
So,
Yes, please.
You spoke of surrender.
Yes.
Could you explain it in more practical terms?
No. Surrender is not a practical thing to do. Especially in English, surrender means the last thing that you do when you can't do anything else. You say, I surrender. But samarpana means equilibrium, and arpa means an offering, and I offer myself in equilibrium. I'm in perfect balance. I don't have too much, I don't have too little. This tool is an extension of your hand. And that is surrender in the context of Gita. The surrender means to give myself, to give you the fullest love that I possibly can, and give every action as the possibility to demonstrate to you the sincerity and the intensity of that feeling. I have this feeling of love. I just don't want to just say, I love you, I love you, I love you. I must do something to make it manifest. And that is what we're calling surrender. It's not enough just to tell you about my love. It's not enough just to talk about it. I really got to do something. If I'm in the presence of God, and I believe that my guru is God telling me the wisdom from the cow of the Upanishad, taking all the cream and giving me that nectar to drink, I'm going to say, hey God, hey Guru, hey, I am so privileged to be in your presence. Let me manifest that sense of privilege in every action that I perform. And that's the sense of surrender in the Gita that we're talking about. We're not saying it as Western people in English saying, hands up, I surrender, I'm putting in the white flag, I don't shoot, I don't have any other alternative, so now do with me as you will. But I will constantly look for a means of escape. That's what surrender means in English. But in Sanskrit, we're offering ourselves in equilibrium. We are renouncing the fruits just as a privilege. I'm giving this just for you because I love you, because I want to show you that my love is sincere. It's the only way I know how to tell you so that you'll understand. Because talk is cheap. I can say it again and again and again, but you won't believe me until I really do something to make that love manifest. And that's what Gita is going to teach us. How do we make that love manifest? And how do we surrender in terms of pure devotion towards God? Pure devotion towards our Guru, where we give up all of our confusion and all of our doubts and all of our struggle to find freedom from my surrender.
Swamiji, so suppose in our life,
Yes.
we face a circumstance where we are not able to attain our result.
Yes.
And then we say, I can't do anything, God help me do this. Isn't that surrender?
No, that's entreaty. That's a prayer. You're saying, God, help me manifest my goal. I'm not able to do it on my own. Help me manifest my goal. And that is not the same as surrender. Surrender is to be so much in love while you're doing the action that you aren't there. You know, sometimes you get so deeply engrossed into your activities that you cease to be. Thoreau said it at Walden Pond. Sometimes I sit on Walden Pond and I cease to be. And many of us have had that experience where we just get so deeply engrossed into the perception of consciousness that we forget that there's a distinction between subject and object. The perceiver and the perceived become one. And that's the love I'm talking about. That's surrender. It's not like, hey God, it's not happening for me. And I need your help to make it happen the way I want it to happen. I don't quite equate that attitude with the formal attitude that we're calling surrender.
And the Lord's Prayer, is that surrender? Thy will be done.
It's hopeful thinking, but it's not the same as surrender. No, I think of more St. Francis's prayer. Oh Lord, make us instruments of your peace, is more of a surrender. But the act is more the surrender than the words. Let us be instruments of her peace. And then we have surrendered. I think of St. Francis as a definition of surrender and a prayer to allow me to surrender. The Lord's Prayer is not quite surrender because it's not manifest in action. Thy will be done says, I'm not responsible. Give us this day our daily bread. Hey, what can I do?
Forgive.
And forgive me, because I blew it. Just like everybody else did. I think of surrender as being so much in love that I cease to be. And then that surrender is manifest, it's not spoken about. It's that equilibrium, that balance, that perfection of the sincerity of our intention. That sincerity of intention makes us pay attention. And we pay attention to the exclusion of delusion. And thereafter, we are surrendered. Are there any other questions?
How do we make our intention sincere?
Well, it's after we've defined the goal, we cultivate the love. And everyone knows that a good Krishi